Welcome to our podcast that brings you closer to the heartbeat of healthcare. We venture beyond the scrubs and into the lives of doctors and medical professionals who have not just succeeded, but thrived in their fields. So get ready to be inspired, to learn, and to embark on a journey with us as we explore the compelling narratives that make up the world of medicine.
Hello, my name is Dr. Dexter Frederick, CEO and founder of B.E.S.T, Brain Expansions Scholastic Training. And for the last 18 years, we have been delivering programs in the community to encourage, nurture the next generation of medical professionals. We are going to begin profiling physicians, nurses, other paramedical professionals who can give insight into the world of healthcare and also be of an encouragement to the next generation. And today, our first interviewee will be Dr. Schieper. Dr. Anton Schieper is from South Africa, and he is the president and CEO of Apprentice Doctor. And he will talk to you more about this company. But it's a pleasure to have him. He has been coming from South Africa for the last 17 years and blessing us with an opportunity to learn more about healthcare and new technologies of how we can train the next generation of medical professionals. So Dr. Schieper, welcome to Tampa, Florida. So good to have you. How was your trip from South Africa?
Thank you, Dr. Frederick. It's a great privilege to be here. And I have to say I've been so a frequent visitor. I basically feel this is my second home. So it's really good to be back.
Welcome, welcome. Glad to have you. Well, let's start out by finding out more about you in terms of where you grew up and how you got into medicine.
Yes, I grew up in a very modest area near Pretoria in South Africa. I was born and raised there. And one of those areas where, we had enough to eat, but really not plenty of anything. And I very, very much wanted to go into being an electrical engineer. And it was just one of those moments where my father and brother sort of suggested, why don't you consider medicine? And then it was just like in a moment the penny sunk, and I thought that's actually really what I wanted to do. So yes, that's how I came to be in the medical field.
Yeah. So many times individuals or young students, are looking for ideas of what they could be. And from your standpoint, it seems like sometimes it takes someone to see the talents and gifts that we have for them to bring it out of us. Was that a situation where they saw something in you where you were not an engineer type, but you were more of the empathetic or...
It's very much so. I think, being wanting to go into electrical engineering, I was like creating these radios and, all these electronic equipment. And so I really like to work with my hands. Mm-hmm. And then also, I really like to work with people, and I think that's very much the key of being a successful medical practitioner, at least in the field of surgery where I am. Right. You have to be able to work with your hands, and you have to like people. That is basic, foundational to a successful career.
Yeah. Healthcare 101. You need to care, you need to like people, you need to be kind, and yeah. So talking about surgery is one of your specialties. How did you lead to that? You could have gone to dermatology or internal medicine. What specialty is it, and why that one?
Yes, maxillofacial and oral surgery. Now, maxillofacial and oral surgery, that is the discipline in medicine where you're really with one foot in the field of dentistry and the other foot in the field of medicine. So we started off with medical and dental students doing exactly the same first 3 years, and then of course you split off to dentistry and or medicine. Now I went the dental route, and then at the end of my studies I just won the final year prize in maxillofacial and oral surgery. So it was just like very much a keen interest. And I think also just due to the fact that I like to be intellectually challenged, but also I really like to work with my hands. So I think that makes for the combination of successful surgery. Now, once you've done your dental degree, then of course you get thrown into the surgical field and you have to go into general surgery for 2 years, and then follow your specialization in maxillofacial and oral surgery. These days you have to be double qualified, dentally qualified, medically qualified, and then only can you specialize in maxillofacial and oral surgery. Really a long road towards that.
Yeah. And I think health, the preparation to become a doctor or a healthcare professional overall takes longer than the normal bachelor's degree. And we know that it's important for the next generation to understand the importance of being patient, working hard. I mean, what do you remind your students of in terms of the length of time and how to put it in perspective?
Yes. I think you have to think about it from a couple of different angles. Anything that's really worthwhile, and especially the medical profession, and even more so surgery. I always tell my students, surgery is irreversible. You make a mistake, you cannot undo what you've done. It's just so I think it's a good thing that there's long years of study, long years of mentorship, and so forth. It just goes with the profession, and I agree with you. Students need to know there's no quick launch into the medical field. There are shorter ways of getting into medicine. We can think about physician assistant and EMT, paramedic, etc. But if you want to do the physician route, then that is going to be many years of your life.
Because of the sacrifice of those years, you are now going to make whole communities better and healthier.
Yes.
And that is something that they need to know.
Yes.
So you finished your training and you started a practice, and somewhere in there, Dr. Skipper, you said you had this bright idea. You had a vision one day to train millions of young men and women, and you came up with this apprentice doctor. What is that, and how did that come about?
I'm going to give you sort of like the short answer on that one, and it was just one day. Every morning I do a morning devotion, and it's around about half an hour, 40 minutes or so, and just right in the middle of just like another morning devotion, it was just like, it's one of those just wow moments. It just fell into my heart like a seed, and I just almost saw the whole thing, and then it, sort of like it settled here. And so that's really how it started off. But then I do have a inclination for teaching and mentoring, which is really part. Not too many people know that the root word doctor is actually teacher, and so I had this inclination towards teaching, but I think it's just for some reason it just settled at the high school level instead of going back to the university to teach, which I also did. But it's the apprentice doctor is very much more focusing on especially grade 10, 11, 12 high school students.
Yeah. So you prepared, you create a curriculum, you prepared the kits, but the amazing thing that I've noticed is that your influence have gone worldwide. What are some corners of the world where you have an impact in terms of the apprentice doctor?
Yes. Well, I have to say thanks also to your goodwill. I've had some really great experiences with student groups here in Tampa, Florida, and Zephyr Hills and neighboring areas, but also other colleagues in North Carolina, Boone, North Carolina. We've had a program in Newark in New Jersey, program in Plano, Texas, a program in College Station, Texas, and then other areas of the world, Perth, Australia. We had 2 programs pre-COVID. We tried to get it rekindled, but it's a bit more difficult on the Australian shores. But nonetheless, last October I went to Sofia in Bulgaria. Sofia is the capital of Bulgaria. And then just a couple of weeks ago I went to Mombasa in Kenya, and we want to start a program in Mombasa. And yes, so that's sort of like some of the interesting areas I've seen with my programs.
Yeah. And you can't forget about home base. I mean, you have programs in South Africa, correct?
Yes, yeah. This is sort of like how could I omit to emphasize that? Up till now, I think for about 10 years we had programs in Johannesburg. This year we've got added programs in Durban, also in Cape Town. So even in South Africa we are expanding.
Yeah. That's amazing. Yeah, I mean, to know that what was placed in your heart, you've produced and encouraged and put a spark in the minds of young boys and girls all over the world that here are the skills you need to become a doctor or medical professional. That's no small feat, but I think you're the right man for it. So,
I think, it's not that I want to credit myself, but I think tenaciousness is sort of like the word that comes to mind. You have to pursue your vision, you have to pursue your purpose, you have to pursue your goals. And that really brings me to the fact that for the students who want to go into the medical field, I would strongly recommend that they have that same, don't let go of your dream. That is just the baseline. And you are going to have problems, and there are going to be some challenges, and it might not, be like small things. Could be like you may have to add another year or 2 or 5 to the eventual goal, but at the end of the day, pursue your passion and pursue your goals with tenaciousness. That's what I would recommend to students. And having said that, I have to always remind, there are some students that I think there's also an element of realism, and I think you have to be very honest with yourself about your capabilities, and not necessarily your IQ, but that also, but things like self-discipline, and some people just don't get that one right, and without that, no medical school. Sorry to say.
Yeah. Some basic things need to happen, be in place.
Yes.
As you said. You know, you mentioned about, tenacity and being tenacious about the goals. But, as healthcare professionals on that journey, we all have setbacks. I've had some. I've had to take some exams over, maybe do 1 or 2 rotations over. And how do we keep going? How if you were talking to a young man or woman, we can tell them to be tenacious, the tenacity, but where can they go to get inspiration to get back on the train again?
Yes.
You did it, I did it, but it's a new world now. What would you say to that young man, young woman who failed the MCAT or think they didn't score as high or think that they're getting older or, how do they get on that train again?
Yes, that is, admittedly easier said than done. It reminds me of in my second year we had a subject called biological sciences, and we had 6 months of botany and 6 months of zoology. And we had 1 semester test and then your exam in both of those subsections. And that's your year mark, that is sort of like, and when we got to zoology, our first test, I failed. Now, if I say fail, I felt like miserably. The lecturer came in the next day and he said, if you failed this exam, you should seriously think about giving up. And I just have to mention so much so for encouragement. If you think people are just going to all the time encourage you, not necessarily so. You're at university level, you're on your own. The lecturer gets his pay at the end of the year, and that's or end of the month, and that's sort of good enough for him or her. So you're on your own. That's just something you need to understand. Right. And then miserably fail was 8.3%. So what I did is tried to work through a handbook like this with classifications and families and species, all those animal and classifications, which is actually quite something to learn. So what I did to rectify it is I just asked my friend next to me, how did you pass the test? And he said, I just studied my notes. I didn't even buy the book, I just studied my notes. I said, can I borrow your notes? Right. And I made photocopies and might not exactly flying colors, but I passed the year and, so there's always ways and means. And, so what I'm basically saying is, there's other people that know the solution to the problem that you're experiencing. And so don't be scared to ask for advice. Don't be scared to knock on somebody else's door or on somebody you look up to a mentor's door. I have students that, they email me. I'm not I'm scared too many students are going to email me. It's not going to, they get my email address and, if they knock on my door, I might not be exactly on the same day, but the next day or the next day I will respond. So knock on a door, there is that thing, knock and, the door shall be opened. I believe in that, yes.
Yeah. Absolutely. I believe in mentorship. I believe that we all did not get here by ourselves. And as a village, we've got to find our village to pick us up. So yeah, awesome. That's beautiful. So Dr. Schieper, I was blessed to have the opportunity to write a book called Flatlining, and yours truly requested that you write the foreword in that book. Beautifully done. Thank you so much. But the book is called Flatlining, and in that book we try to express the need for more health professionals and the lack thereof of that, especially among Black and brown underrepresented students. What have you noticed, nationally and in terms of the number of qualified, medical professionals and what we need to do to improve that? I know you're from South Africa, and in terms of the number of, physicians who are from South Africa who are African, just like over in the United States, their numbers are not high. But we do know that if you have more individuals or physicians or health professionals who look like the community, sometimes there is improvement in healthcare and the trust factor. What has been your experience, and is that relevant today?
Yes, let me start off with, I think this phenomenon is really a worldwide phenomenon. That you get underrepresented groups that just haven't had the privileges or the opportunities to, they may have the talent, they may have everything else, but so typically what happens, and I think this is, like I say, as far as I'm concerned, a worldwide phenomenon, and that is richer or rich people, they tend to put their children or their kids in private schools, and private schools, let's be honest, that's a funnel towards many a medical school, and so you do get by default now underrepresented group that's in my opinion just not exactly fair, because it's just not the way it should be. In South Africa, I've very, very early started to make contact with the Sawubona Science Center, and they go into the most, how can I say, the poorest of poor schools in Soweto and the other areas, and then they bring some of these students out and they give them opportunities on a Saturday. They call it Saturday school. Mm-hmm. And I can remember in my practice, just like one morning, received a card and a couple of flowers, and I opened the card, and it was a couple of years ago, the Saturday school student who said, I've attended one of your programs. I'm second year medicine now at the University of Stellenbosch. And I just want to thank you for giving me that opportunity and the encouragement. So that's just like, there's no amount of money or anything else that can make up for that. And it's just so satisfying, because, that person would just not have had the opportunity. Didn't somebody go to the trouble to connect? Really, that's the key. So you have to go into the community. You have to go to let's just say a certain subgroup of schools, mm-hmm. And you have to make your mark. There's no shortcut to that. I'm not sure if that's more or less your experience, but mm-hmm. That's been mine.
Yeah. What I hear you saying is you've got to be intentional.
Yes. About
going after or supporting the need.
Yes.
That's there. It's just not going to happen.
Yes.
That's what we've tried to do, and be intentional about starting early and going into communities of color that or schools that are not well funded.
Yes.
To create that nurturing of the youth. Yeah. So tell me, just to try and keep it a little light right now, if you had to switch with anyone in the world or switch places for one day, who do you think you may want that to be with?
That is really a difficult question. I like traveling, and I really think we're living on the most amazing planet on in the universe. Mm-hmm. So in Mombasa we went to the Tsavo Game Reserve, and it is just like such an amazing experience. And so I can carry on. So if I have to really say, I think it's going to be Sir David Attenborough. He's had the opportunity to really see the most amazing areas on planet Earth, and experience it. And yes, that would be something that I could, maybe more than a day, I would exchange for that.
You would set yourself in one place, and the beauty would be so much you would want to stay there for a couple weeks.
Yeah, it's almost like coming to Tampa.
When we don't have all this rain and
oh no, that's coming from a drought-stricken, arid type of climate. Yeah. This is just paradise.
Excellent. We have one more question. So, in our organization, we proclaim that we are a faith-based organization. How has your faith or your belief in a higher power influenced you as a doctor, as an entrepreneur, as a strategist? How has that influenced you?
I think it's completely foundational because it's just that your faith and the spiritual side of things is just so foundational and so baseline that I can almost not imagine life without that foundation. But if I have to imagine it, it's sort of like a completely shallow life, living from day to day, and really, why care? You can just really look after yourself. So I really like the Adventist, the Advent Health slogan of extending the ministry, the healing ministry of Christ. And I think as a physician, that's been somewhere in my makeup as well. That's really it's very much foundational. It's not add on. It is like in Him we live and move and have our being. That's like the way that I've practiced my practice as an entrepreneur, which the last couple of years it's been a lot more. I've actually stepped out of practice. And so I'm full-time entrepreneur at this point in time, and that's given me a new focus on or opportunity to do things that I think it's also very, very foundational, spiritual in its origin, and that is to be creative, to create these kits and so that's really challenged me. And then the giving aspect, so I believe our Heavenly Father is really in the giving business, and to sort of like being able to give, and I hope in the future I could be able to give a lot more. That's been just like completely amazing. And then as a mentor, I think that's also part of the complete or the bigger view. And I think it's an element of mentorship is like, okay, this is how you do it, but it's a bit of a fathership as well, So I tend to see my students as really as not my biological children, but that's my children, and that's I'm sure your best students are, that's an extension of your children.
Yeah. I experience that same feeling also. It's a matter of you're preparing your children for medicine.
Exactly.
Some of the same intuitive skills and love and the passion we have is what we try to pass on to them.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I've admired you over the years in terms of just how well balanced, if I had to use one word, balanced you are. And in terms of keeping it in perspective, so definitely celebrate. So, we both have love, like passion, and you've been around the world, and what would you say is the one youth medical mentorship program that is the best in the land. What would you say?
Yeah, that doesn't take anything like a lot of thinking. I would say that, let me just get this, BEST is the best.
Good.
That's what I think.
Thank you. Thank you.
And I say it with, just with absolute conviction. I've been involved in BEST for, privileged to be involved for, I think it's basically a decade now, so the best part of 10 years. And I've been privileged to see BEST grow, and see how BEST managed through the difficult times of COVID, and see how BEST recovered, and see how BEST is expanding. So BEST is the best.
Thank you. Well, you heard it right here at Brain Expansions Scholastic Training with Dr. Skipper from South Africa, President and CEO of Apprentice Doctor, and we are truly happy to have had him for a short period of time. And we hope what you heard would be encouraging to you. If you're a medical student, pre-med student, you're aspiring to be a medical professional, you heard some words of wisdom, and I hope will take you to the finish line. Thank you for coming, being here.